Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een amma ba'd. قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد ومن آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة. صدق الله العظيم. So, dear brothers and dear sisters, dear friends, young and old, I'm not making that judgment. I'm just saying young and old. You can put yourself in whatever category you want. The married and the unmarried, that's probably a more solid category. You're either married or you're not married. This is a very short amount of time to talk about such a huge topic of marriage. So the way I want to conduct this today is in the next half an hour or so, 40 minutes, I'm going to discuss some things that come to mind regarding some important aspects of marriage. Some of it will be related to pre-marriage. The rest of it is going to be related to within marriage. And maybe some aspects of post-marriage. Divorce is post-marriage kind of idea. However, what I really want to do is I want to speak for a short while and then just open it up to questions. Because what happens is that it's such a huge topic, such a broad scope, that I may not cover what's maybe relevant to your situation. So it's better that I discuss some general points that I think are useful, inshallah, for all sectors. And then after that, feel free to ask any question you want. And let us not consider any question to be taboo today. You can be anonymous if you want to. You see, there's a lot of taboos related to marriage that people don't want to speak about, and they should be spoken about. So if there is something, bring it up. If we don't have the answer, we don't have the answer. We can't know everything. So the first thing that I want to discuss is that when you get married, or if you are in a marriage, marriage is ultimately a relationship between two individuals. This is a relationship which is a necessary relationship in the sense that it's the only way we survive in this world and we continue the human race. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sign is that He has created the man and woman from a single entity, Adam alayhi salam. He created Adam alayhi salam, created Hawa alayhi salam from her. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا. We created from you your spouses, meaning from our father, Adam alayhi salam, Hawa alayhi salam was created. There was a natural unsiyya, natural familiarity, love, affection, attraction that was created between the two. That's one of the wisdoms of one gender coming from the other gender, which is the female coming from the male. What happens in marriage is that when you're not interested in marriage yet, the window is closed. So you're not really looking out for marriage. So with a teenager, somebody who's become 18, 19, then they suddenly get ready for marriage. They open that window in their mind and then they're going to look forward to it. Then it's very difficult to suppress it. Example of that is, if you're not into wine or beer, when we go into a supermarket and you like shopping, you don't look at the wine aisles because there's no window open to that. I'm not interested. I don't need to check it out. If you're not interested in coffee, you're not going to look at the coffee section. Somebody can give you the best coffee, it's going to be lost on you. But once you open yourself out to it, then you'll start enjoying it. Marriage is one of those things where it's a natural thing in most people. There are some people who are a bit asexual, meaning they're not interested. They still have to get married and they usually get married and do what they have to do. But that's marriage. Now, marriage is between two individuals. Allah has created by default a sense of comfort and familiarity in one another. However, sometimes there is no familiarity. There's a wall between us. Why is that wall there when it's by default? Allah is saying in the Quran that we've created خَلَقَ لَكُمْ, we've created for you from yourselves, your spouses. So لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, so you can find repose, tranquility, comfort in them. Why aren't you finding comfort in them? If Allah has done that by design, then why are you going against Allah's design? وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً, and He's also placed mawaddah and rahmah between you. He's decreed there to be mawaddah, love, if you as a loose translation, and rahmah, mercy, love, affection. And in any sound marriage, that's going to be there. It's an amazing relationship. If you do it right, you would have wished you did it a few years earlier. The amount of comfort it brings if it's done right. So what goes wrong? What are the obstacles? What is skewing the whole thing? Why is the mawaddah and rahmah not there? Let us discuss that today. So that if we can understand those things, then if we're not married yet, at least we can avoid those things. And if we are married and these things are blockages for us and hindrances and obstacles for us, then we can hopefully get rid of them. So what are some of the blockages? That is changing the nature that Allah has created on, changing the natural inclination and the natural love and affection and everything. Why is that being changed? So obviously human beings, human being is supposed to be insan kamil. Among all of the haywan, among all of the haywanat, among all of the animal kingdom, which we are flesh and blood, we're a part of the animal kingdom. From Aristotle's time, there's been categorizations of the haywanat, of the animal kingdom. So he has the haywan muftaris, he has the haywan nahik, and he has, for the human being, he calls it the haywan natiq, the rational human being. However, the insan is a haywan kamil, is the perfect animal because of what Allah has given us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, that we have honored the children of Adam. We're very different from any other animal. However, Allah has said that sometimes a human being can become like the rest of the animals, because the rest of the animals usually only go according to their design and nature. If they're known to be wild because that's their nature, then that's why they're wild. Cats are not known to be, small cats are not known to be wild, so they don't act wild usually. Large cats are supposed to be wild animals. They usually do not act out of character. If they are wild, they're wild because of their character. That's by design. They eat, they hunt, they consume, they rest in the way they've been doing for centuries. When it comes to human beings, because Allah has given us a mind, we're a rational animal. We have the ability to control, we have a lot of flexibility, we have a lot of adjustability, we have a lot of options. Sometimes we don't use the option in the right way. That's why Allah also says that the human can become worse than an animal, because we're going against our nature, the scope of what we're allowed to do and what we shouldn't be doing. So part of that are regular human failings that will destroy marriage. One of them will be just normal human failings. Maybe we are just greedy. So that's why our greed comes forth in a relationship. It could be something as simple as, I know it sounds petty, because this could be any relationship. If we're greedy, then we're going to be selfish. That means we're not selfless. That means we're not thinking about the other. I'm just thinking about my own indulgence. So maybe I'm eating most of the food. I'm eating all the good parts of the food. Something simple and petty like that. We're not leaving anything for the partner, for the wife or husband, whichever way we're looking at it. We want to take the best of everything. Maybe we want to overindulge, but we're maybe stingy, so we don't want them to indulge. So we're greedy for ourselves, but not for others. We have no compassion. Sometimes stinginess. So we're stingy, we just don't want to spend, so we make the other person's life miserable. Now, if a woman is stingy in a marriage, you can get away with that. Less problem of spending too much. Because usually the husband is supposed to be the breadwinner and the one in charge and the one responsible to provide the income. to provide the expenses. So if the wife is stingy, alhamdulillah. But if the husband is stingy, that's a big issue. The Prophet ﷺ allowed a woman, Hind radiallahu anha, to take without telling her husband the basic needs. I'm not giving you a fatwa because you may be thinking your husband is stingy, but he's not. So if any sister wants to do that, make sure they consult a scholar first. This is how stingy I think my husband is. Let the scholar decide whether the guy is stingy or not. Right? It could be one of the bigger issues is that the person can't deal with his anger. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates every single human being with a set of qualities and a set of challenges. Every single human being. There's nobody who can say, I don't have a challenge. Okay, you may not have anger, but you may have cowardice. You may not be somebody who's very active and get-go. You may just be so relaxed that you don't even fulfill your responsibilities. There's a good and bad to everything. Even forgetfulness. Forgetfulness is seen as a bad trait. There's a small benefit to it as well. If we could never forget, then our loss of today would remain the same, with the same freshness in our mind. We lose a very loved one, 10 years later we'd feel the same way. Can you imagine it? Usually over a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks it starts getting a bit more tolerable and more manageable. But imagine if that didn't change. Right? Some people do like to preserve their grief. They like to keep it alive. So they feel the same way after 1 year. That's not the normal human design. Humans are designed to forget and to carry on with life. That's why you're not allowed to mourn a deceased over 3 days. Get back to life. Yes, you can do things for them, but you can't mourn them in that sense. It's a beautiful design of Allah because these are human traits and Allah knows them. But anger is a big one. Anger is a massive one. Anger ravages things because anger is like fire. You need a bit of anger, just like you need a bit of fire, otherwise you can't cook food. You can't have warmth, like it's very cold right now because of this AC, right? But too much of it, and it ravages. Indiscriminate. It's not manageable. Likewise, it happens with anger. That is what's going to cause a problem. Now, what happens that you get angry? The other person may respond. Then what happens is, it just started off with a spurt of anger. The other person responded. You got even more angry. So they got angry. It became a full-blown conflict. Enmity sets in. Hatred comes in. Can you see how there was no hatred before? There was no enmity. Now what happens is shaitan rides this wave of anger. So once you got angry, or you got sensitive and angry. So sometimes women go through PMT. So they start acting out of character. They don't even realize that. The man doesn't know. So he responds angrily as well, and it becomes a full-blown argument. And they don't know how to diffuse it because they've never done it before. Or they're not used to diffusing something. They don't realize we can diffuse it. One person just relents, sits back and say, you know what? There's no point. Let's sort this out. Are willing to sort this out. No, they need to sort it out. I want to sort it out. So what shaitan does is then he starts making, and this is what happens, starts making the person focus on all of the bad traits of the other person. And remember I mentioned at the beginning, we all have some bad traits. Everybody has bad qualities. Is there anybody here who doesn't? Because I don't want to insult anybody. Anybody who doesn't have any bad qualities at all. Everybody in this world is born with some challenges and some qualities. The successful ones, half successful ones, which most people are, they discover their qualities, their capabilities, and they use it to live their life and go through this world, earn a living, develop relationships and so on. But the person, accomplished one, is the one who also discovers their weaknesses and controls them. As I said, somebody might be stingy by nature, and that's fine. But if you act on the stinginess, that's an issue. If we don't resist it, we stop paying zakat, or we never pay zakat. We don't donate, or we take from people but we never send any food to anyone else's house. We never give dawats to anybody. Then we're going to be blameworthy for that. So What shaitan does then is that he makes us think of the negativities of that person. And that's what happens. When you get angry, when you get enmity, when you start hating someone, you then just naturally by human behavior, we start focusing on their negatives. We start becoming critical. You'll do that to a neighbor. You'll do that to your own brother. You'll do that to a colleague at work. It just what happens. Prophet ﷺ is giving us guidance everywhere. He said, "La yafruk mu'minun mu'mina." A man should not hate a woman, meaning his wife. If there's a character trait that he dislikes, there'll be something else that he will like, which will be good, because everybody has positives. So what happens in a marriage when it descends down into this level where you're not weary of it? If you don't know that this could happen, you'll just let it go. It'll cascade down. If you don't know. But if you know, then like, no, let me stop this. So for example, we have an argument and I'm thinking, she must apologize today. She's done this 3 times now. Okay, what helps me then? Let's go back to the Prophet ﷺ. He said, one hadith, al-badi'u bis-salami bari'un min al-kibr. The one who initiates the salam is the one free of pride. Meaning if there's an issue, a little conflict, you're the one, Salamu alaikum. Okay, salam, peace. I'm an arrogant, proud person anyway, but let me just hopefully get rid of some pride. So, Assalamu alaikum. That helped me a lot. Another hadith that helped me a lot is that Prophet said that if there's a conflict between 2 people, or there's not a conflict, but a person knows they're on the wrong position and they avoid a conflict. So how would that work out? So you got into a conflict, you realize you're wrong. So rather than act all defensive now, as usually people do, like, you know what, let me stop this. They get a place in the outskirts of paradise, on the sides of paradise. Allah rewards them as well, just for avoiding anything further. And if you're right, and most people think they're right, so in your mind you're right, and you stop the conflict, and you don't argue, you get a place in the middle or the highest parts of paradise. That hadith helps me a lot. We need it. We need these things to manage ourselves. Many people don't know these guidances from the Messenger ﷺ and the directions in the Quran. They just literally work on pure survival of the fittest. In the world, it's all about survival of the fittest. You have to be aggressive. La ilaha illallah. I've actually seen some so-called guidance to newly married couples like that. You must set the tone from the beginning. Somebody will tell the husband. There's others who will tell the wife, you must insist on X, Y, and Z. There's one uncle who told his nephew he just got married, he's getting married. Make sure that you make her make you Indian tea twice a day, even if you don't want to drink it. Just spill it away if you want to, but she gets into the habit of it. Indian tea is a bit more complicated than the normal English tea where you just throw some hot water and a tea bag in and add a little milk on top. Indian tea is, just in case you have forgotten, you have to boil the milk with the tea leaves and watch it for a while and make it karak. And you get karak tea then. There's a difference. Make her make it even if you don't want to. Bring lots of guests in the first few weeks of the marriage so that she properly learns how to cook and does it. So, look, people need to know how to cook. I completely agree with that, but come on, you don't have to overburden somebody just to set the scene. Make it natural. On the other hand, there's some people who don't play the right role. Remember, in a marriage, Allah has said, الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم. Men are the caretakers, maintainers, responsible ones. These are the translations I'm doing of women. He didn't say that the dictators, commanders. He didn't say leaders. He didn't say umara, amir. He didn't say that. He said qawwam. Qawwam comes from the concept of qiyam, to stand. Stand up and do the service. Stand up and fulfill the responsibility. It means if anything goes wrong, if something there's a shortfall, the buck stops with him. That's what it means. What happens is you get a man who's a bit too timid. So he's like, yeah, let her do whatever she wants. That wife is not going to be happy. Even if she's getting her way, she's not usually going to be happy. I've seen too many cases where the woman, she's got her way. But you know what the complaint is? He doesn't lead. But she wants her way. It's a really strange psychological complex. A dissonance.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, I'm telling you. Right? She wants to do the leading. He's too timid to say anything. So he lets her have her way, and she's complaining that he doesn't lead the way. In some cases, the guy is genuinely just too timid. He has no idea, can't call the shots, cannot lead and make the decisions. It doesn't mean that he has to make every single decision. There are departments in a marriage. For example, some marriages, the women deal with all the schooling. The husband doesn't even know what to do. Which is a good school to go to, what to do. He has no idea. It's like, okay, you deal with it. We'll just make mashwara. And she just consults and says, this is what's going on. What do you think? Yeah, it sounds like cool. Bismillah. I mean, he has to make, no, I think it has to be like this. Just because I need to make the decision. No, it doesn't have to be like that. What color should the house be? The paint. If he doesn't have a preference, it's all right. Let her have a preference. And even if he has a preference, it doesn't have to be his way. Because you're both going to live there. Who's going to live more in the house? Maybe let her have that preference. You're going to have to adjust that. A woman was talking to me. She said that her husband literally has no power, no idea of how to lead. She has to make every single decision. Like, give me an example. Last week, we were outside somewhere, and 2 children or something, they're with the father, she is behind doing something, and they want ice cream. So they go to the ice cream guy, and the father turns around to her to say, what should I buy them? Like, so why don't you ask the kids? Like, he's a bit so simple, if I use that word, that he can't make a decision of what ice cream to buy them. He can't even talk to them. Now, it could be that maybe they've got a certain diet in the house, or maybe that, but it wasn't that. It was just that he doesn't make any decision. She gets her way, but she's not happy with this. She says, I'm only staying in the marriage for the sake of the children and to please Allah. Otherwise, I don't want to be in this marriage. That's a case where she would like him to lead. And she doesn't want to lead, but he's incapable. But there's many other cases where they want to lead. They insist on everything. The women. And the man can't do much because he's too weak character. But then the wife blames him for being weak character because she's got the stronger character. So there's a guy, he's been married twice now and divorced. And he has a very weak character. And he's realized, he goes, what should I do now? So does that mean I should just get very angry? Does that mean I should just insist and become stubborn? I said, no, that's not what it means. It just means that you have to be principled. You have to have principles in life. You have to have a direction. There's another woman, young woman that I was consulting with. She saw 2 men, potentials to get married to. She refused the 2 of them. The first one she refused, even though he's got a lot of money, house, everything, because he was a bit too like, it's up to you, that kind of an attitude. She wants the man to lead. He's not leading. She didn't think he could lead. And maybe she is more educated than him, so he's a bit intimidated of her. And that's another issue in life. That's another issue. You can't have a woman marry somebody she can't respect. It's a very simple rule of marriage. Otherwise, that marriage is going to be troublesome. You can't have a woman marry somebody she can't respect. Then he saw the other guy and didn't think that he's accomplished much in the 2 years that he could have accomplished. So then she finally agreed to marry a third person who knew where he was going on in life. Men need to know where they're going on in life. They need to know how to earn because they're responsible. So that kind of weak character, you're going to have to just man up to it and do something. So that's hopefully that explains that part of it. And if you have any questions about that, you can ask. But going back to the issue is, if a person is too sensitive, they're going to have a problem, because when you're sensitive, you have a problem with any relationship because you're constantly breaking up with somebody, even if that's your friend at school, or your neighbor, or your brother or sister, or your mom or dad, or your child, because you're constantly like stopping talking to somebody. That's going to be an issue. If you're addicted to something, that's going to be a major issue, because addiction means that you've given yourself up to something. That thing runs us. That thing governs us. That means everything else is secondary. That's the problem with addictions. I've got lectures online of how to deal with addictions, and there's lots of other self-help places online. We're not going to go into that. Another one is that the marriage that you get into, you're going to have to invest in it. So how long does it take to have a smooth sailing in a marriage? How long does it take? Tell me, from experience. How long does it take for the couple to get to know one another, so now it's more smooth sailing after all of the rough patches? Anybody have an experience? I mean, you could be wrong, you could be right. It's subjective, so tell me. Yeah, I like that. 3 years. I think 3 years is a good amount of time. Why does it take 3 years though? I'll tell you why. The first period, this is if you've not been together before. If you've not started in a haram way where you know everything about one another and then you get married, it actually gets worse. You know why? Because when you're not married, there's a taboo, there's an excitement. Now you get married, it's all halal, and I know everything about the other. What am I going to discover? Kind of gets boring, right? This is experience of people. This is why I've never tried that, right? So initially when you get married, you're discovering one another, but you're in a heightened state of romance, curiosity, love. Nothing can go wrong. It's called the honeymoon period. It doesn't have to last as long as the honeymoon itself, which is probably a week or two. I've asked quite a few people, anybody have an idea of how long where nothing can go wrong? You have never had an argument and it's just smooth sailing, cloud nine or whatever you want to call it. How long does that last? MashaAllah. A month. From what I've read, or from what I've asked, I think it's about 6-7 months. It could last less. If we do have a problem, one of those personality issues, then it's going to probably happen earlier. But if you're really trying to do your best for one another, there's just heightened state, about 6-7 months. And then will come this devastating moment where you have an argument. You've never experienced it before. It's like shatters everything. But it's just normal. And I'm telling you that right now, if you haven't been married yet, that it's normal. The longer you can delay it, the better, but it is completely fine. Some of the best couples in the world have had issues. There is no couple who don't have issues in marriage. Otherwise, you're probably in an abusive relationship if there's no issues. One side is just dominating the other one in such a domineering way, the other side can't say anything, just say yes, 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 yes to everything, but they're probably going to be very unhappy. Because it's two human beings. Think of it. You got two people with their own ambitions, their own likes and dislikes, their own personalities. And now in the modern world, they have their own ambitions and goals and careers as well. Before they didn't have that. Do you want to have children now, or do you want to have it 5 years down the line? No, I still need to pursue my career. You never had that question before. It was very simple for a woman before, when she was getting married. She knew what her job was. 50 years and before, for the whole of history. It was very clear what she was going to do. Now it's become a lot more complicated. They have to have lots of meetings before marriage to make sure that we're going to be on the same page. You know, like where we're going to stay, and do you have to stay separately together? And are you going to continue your studies? Are you going to work full time? When do you want to have children? None of these questions were there before. There were other questions, but not these. So what happens is you go through this honeymoon period first. Then you start having some issues. What are those issues?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters. MashaAllah, it's very, very cold today and I'm rubbing my hands. But very important message. Would you like a place in paradise, in Jannah? A place with bricks of gold and silver, mortar of fragrant musk, pebbles of pearls and sapphire, soils of saffron. You may have not heard me talk like this before, but mashallah, gardens outside the palaces will have streams flowing beneath them. The streams of Jannah will be crystal clear water. And then after that, you're going to have others with milk and of honey and rivers, mashallah. Brothers and sisters, the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever builds a masjid for Allah, Allah will build for him likewise in paradise, something similar in paradise. White Thread Institute, which you all know inshallah, desperately needs to develop this center of ours to accommodate people, students and worshippers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This area doesn't have a masjid, so we want to give service to all sections of the community once this is built, including the wider society. We need to raise 450,000 to achieve this. We just need 44,500 special people to donate just £100 each to reach our target. Brothers and sisters, the Prophet ﷺ said, I'm going to reiterate, whoever builds a masjid for Allah, Allah will build for him similar in paradise. What an amazing reward this is. Imagine, if you just donate £100 in this world, Allah will build for you a house in paradise. Not just any house. A paradise house is not any house. Whatever your heart desires will be in this place. Not only this, brothers and sisters, but this project is also sadaqah jariyah, which means a continuous charity. If you donate, then anytime somebody prays here, worships here, learns anything from here and prays elsewhere, you get the same reward inshallah. Every person who learns the Quran, reads, you will get the same reward inshallah. What an amazing reward, subhanallah, that is waiting for you. All for just £100. Brothers and sisters, build your home in paradise. Donate towards this masjid. On the button below, hit the link. And one more thing, please. Share this video. And anybody else that donates, because of your sharing this video, inshallah, you will be rewarded as well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Allah reward you. Jazakumullah khairan.
I am going to insist on something, or I'm going to bring something. She's not going to like it maybe, so she's going to say, I don't like that. I'm like, no, it's good. And I might be in a bad mood that day. So I insist. They might go into an argument. Slowly, we're going to have so many experiences of new things happening that if we're both trying to make it work and adjust, we're finally going to know what I like and what the other person likes. We're going to meet somewhere and compromise in between. So why 3 years? Because I don't think you can have all of the possible experiences, unique cases that can take place within a year. Some people do it in 2 years. But 3 years is a good amount, because within 2 to 3 years, you probably had all sorts of... So in that time, you might go on a holiday. A holiday is a completely different beast than staying at home. You know that there's divorces that have happened in Hajj. Hajj is probably the last holiday you want to do as a honeymoon. Because there's already so many stresses in Hajj already. And you want to try to get to know one another within that. I want to go out now. No, I don't want to go out now. We're going to go out to eat right now. Nothing is in routine. So you go on a Hajj, you go on a Umrah, that's going to create a new set of experiences. I need to learn what she likes, what I like. Oh, she wants to pray more. I want to pray less. Right? She wants to spend more time in the masjid. I want to do less. But we also want to do things together. Eventually we'll realize that, okay, you know what? Let her do that. I'll do my thing. That's how you adjust. That's how you learn that we agree to disagree on certain things and we agree to agree on other things. Next time I go for Umrah, I know exactly what she likes and I know she knows what I like. So you're not going to have that hopefully you're not going to have that issue again. You go on a holiday somewhere else where you'd like to go to eat, what kind of room you want to stay in, where you want to visit, what she enjoys. You like visiting museums, she doesn't like visiting museums. Okay, fine. I'm not going to insist that she goes to the museum. Okay, you do that today and I'll do this today. This idea we had of doing everything together is not going to work. Fine, we've agreed to do it differently, but at least, mashallah, we're both happy, right? Whether she wants my mum to come along or not, or whether I want her dad to come along or not, that's going to create another issue. The first time I go to stay at her house, that's going to create a new kind of environment. She comes to my father's house. We go to a relative's house. We get guests in our house who are going to stay for 3 days the first time. That creates a whole new, depending on whether it's her from her family or from my family. These are all unique situations that throw up challenges. It's like the rubbing of the plates. There's little tremors that can take place or a massive earthquake. But once we've had this, we know exactly that, look, let's not invite any guest over on this time, because it doesn't work well. We'll do it at another time. Can you see how within 2 to 3 years then you would have probably had all of the experiences in life? That doesn't mean that it's going to be completely smooth after that, but it will be mostly smooth because we're going to learn so much more about one another. And if you want to make it work, then we've got a will to make, we've put the investment in. However, then pregnancy, and then there could be hormonal issues that come up, postpartum depression. After the pregnancy, she thinks he's rushing too much into things. What? Lots of things. And he's like, she's too involved with the baby now. She doesn't understand how to balance the husband and the baby. And I don't blame her. Sometimes if you don't know, that's very difficult. Your whole focus goes to the baby, and she's not purposely neglecting him. She's going to have to learn not to neglect him. He's going to have to also learn to take it easy. There is another baby now. Can you see the different experiences? Eventually there's going to be 3 children. And maybe the husband's more focused on, bringing the money in, and he's less focused with the children. She's like, you don't do anything with the children. You have to overcome that part and get smooth balance there. Can you see how there's lots of issues like that? He's going to say that, he's going to say, but I work so hard, I can't come home, I don't even know how to look after to play with the children in that sense, because my father never played with me, so I don't know how to do it. That's not an excuse. But he has to try. He may not be able to become fully like her, but at least then she'll realize he is doing something. So they have to come to some mean there. These new issues that come up. And then after that, your children will become teenagers, and they'll start creating massive issues. Every teenager creates a different challenge. Some teenagers are just absolutely lazy and they just don't get ready on time. That's a challenge. Some people don't do good at school and madrasa. And God forbid some people go out of line. That's going to create a strain on the husband, right? She's like, you don't do enough. He's like, you don't do enough. These are constant issues of marriage. Then, inshallah, we get through that. Then it comes time to get them married. The father wants a certain kind of son-in-law, daughter-in-law. The mother wants a different kind of son-in-law. That's another time of some abrasion. But again, if they're both trying their best to understand one another and they've realized, how much I can push and I want to make the other person, be happy as well, then it's anything. You can overcome anything. But if you don't and you're a stubborn guy, can you imagine how are you going to survive until this time? If you're stubborn, sensitive, defensive, inflexible, are you going to survive all of these different challenges that I put in front of us? Probably not. It's probably already in some massive conflict, and it's just staying together because not many people just don't come apart so easily. But they're both in the ground, they can't even see one another. It's a massive conflict. So then if we do get over that, and then our children have an issue, and now they come to the parents, and the parents have 2 opinions. No, he should divorce her. The other partner is saying, no, she's fine. No, he's fine. It is so beautiful when the husband and wife are on the same page. And usually after, as I said, within 2 to 3 years, you're going to be on the same. In fact, I think you can be on the same page within a few months. You'll still have challenges to deal with, but being on the same page is happening much sooner. Within a few months, you'll be on the same page. That's a very easy one. But you can still have conflicts. Okay, then what? I didn't even bring in the in-laws interference. Even if there's not, then you got these other issues. But then if you have in-law interference, it's even worse. Then what you have is somebody may die in the husband's family or the wife's family, and there are certain things that are demanded. Let's just say that the wife has to go and wants to go and spend 2 weeks in her mom's house, which is in another town or another country. How do you deal with that? Who's going to cook? How are you going to deal with the loneliness? And so on. Likewise, if the husband wants to go out on lots of business trips, or holidays with his friends. How are you going to deal with that? There's going to be so much issues. And then if I just bring to the last part, and a lot of this stuff I have included in my book, but this part I did not, because I never had an experience with it and I never thought about it, is menopause. A woman, when she gets to 45 to 50, there are some massive hormonal changes that can take place because inside things are changing and they can start acting differently. And if the husband doesn't know that, then he's not going to be very accommodating and very tolerant. He's not going to know how to deal with it. And unfortunately, I don't think there's a lot of experience or details about this in our community either, menopause. I don't think there is. Hardly anybody knows about what happens, the changes that take place. And because of that, then there's going to be, before that actually, I missed one thing, is the midlife crisis. Around the age of 38 to 40, people go through, husband, wife, men, women go through midlife crisis. What is midlife crisis? Simply put, as you're getting in life, you get to the age of 40, right? 40 is kind of the midway point. It's you've gone to the top of the hill. What people do at the age, around the age of, I say 38 English, because 40, it's, as Allah talks about in the Quran, حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغَ 40 سَنَةً. And then there's a dua Allah gives us in the Quran, رَبِّ أَوْزِعْنِي أَنْ أَشْكُرَ نِعْمَتَكَ الَّتِي أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيَّ وَعَلَى وَالِدَيَّ. And he continues. So what happens is when you get to around 39, 40, you start looking at your life, meaning what you've already accomplished. And if it's not a very rosy picture, you think, I've wasted my life. So many people divorce at this time. Their children are probably around 20 by now. Right? And then they want a divorce now because they've been miserable. They've not sorted it out. Not everybody. Some people have had issues. Or they want to start a new business. They want to start taking some trips. They want to buy a fast car because they think now I'm over the hill and I need to do something with my life. I remember a couple and the guy's like, okay, fine, we just want a divorce now. It's like, how long have you had problems for? 20 years. You lasted 20 years. Why? No, that's it now. I can't carry on anymore. Right? So these are life will throw up issues. But as I said right from the beginning, if you want to make this work and you want to be on the same page as far as possible, despite all of these issues, you'll be able to overcome them. But there are going to be issues. So what is marriage then ultimately, if I sum it up? It's learning how to deal with issues. You can't take issues out. They come in any relationship just because of the way we are and the way the world is. But what marriage is really, successful marriage is about, is how to deal with issues. It's how to deal with any issues with anyone. If you are good with your neighbors and you know how to deal with your neighbors' issues and your brothers and sisters' issues and your home issues and your colleague issues, you probably do well in marriage as well. Yeah, if you're domineering and you're getting away with things in your college issues, you're the big guy on the block, right? So everybody listens to you and they just let you do it, right? Or in your brothers and sisters and you try to do that in a marriage and it doesn't work, then be careful. It's all about adjustability and compromise and love. Simple test in your marriage. If she gets upset, do I get upset? That will tell you the health of your marriage. So if she gets upset, or when she gets upset, if you get upset, then it means that you would never get her upset purposely. Because if she gets upset, then you would get upset. And you don't want to get upset, so you will not ever make her upset purposely. You understand? On the other hand, if you don't really mind when she gets upset, it's like she's always getting upset. It could be the other way around as well. He's always getting upset. So you don't really care anymore. You've kind of lost making investment in here. Number 3, you actually like it when they get upset. And it's a very bad marriage. Because you like it when they get upset. I remember I was in Pakistan. It was quite a large program. And I mentioned this test. So this old uncle comes to me after the program. I had to rush to another program. He comes to me and said, "Bayan to acha tha, lekin ye baat kyun kahi?" Your bayan was okay, but why did you mention this test? I'm not sure why he had an issue with the test. Maybe the test came out wrong. So he was like, man, that's not good. Right? But these are the things. So let me stop here. Essentially, just to conclude, the Prophet ﷺ once had an issue with his wives. And it's beautiful to, the very interesting dialogues. The Prophet ﷺ had certain issues with the wives. Usually, a lot of them had to, because he had 9 wives at once, so a lot of them had to do with jealousy of one another. Right? They're very interesting. You can learn a lot from them. Right? They're all our mothers. Ummahatul Mu'mineen. On one occasion, it was based on expenses, a conflict between them about expenses, a difference of opinion rather, and he went away from his wives, all of them. 29 days, stayed in a loft. Some Sahaba thought, has he divorced his wives? Prophet ﷺ, with the best of characters, who said, I am the best of you to my wives, and I am the best of character. Even he had dealt with these kind of issues. So that's what I'm trying to say is that, look, you are going to deal with issues. You just need to know how to do it. Now, what he did at that time was very important, that I need to show, I need to be away for 29 so they recognize what the real scenario is. Because sometimes maybe people don't see the value of what they already have until they may be losing it or something. There could be multiple reasons why the Prophet did what he did. On one occasion, he went to visit his son-in-law to his daughter's house. Fatima radiallahu anha knocked on the door. Fatima came out. She said, sorry, he's not here. He's in the masjid because we had a little conflict. She's quite clear about it. He didn't say, let me go and sort him out. He went to the masjid and he was he found Ali radiallahu anhu lying on the ground. Some of the sand had, because of sweat or something, had stuck to his side and he was sleeping. So he kind of pushed him a bit and said, Qum Aba Turab, in a very affectionate way, that stand, O father of the soil, meaning, O soiled one. Right? Very affectionate. He didn't tell him off or anything. People have issues in their marriage, but he knew that they could work it out. It's about finding out how to work these things out. Having the open heart, the tolerance, adjustability. It's not going to be my way all the time. My wife comes and she's learnt another type of biryani. I can't, I can, inshallah, request her to please learn my mom's style of biryani as well. Then we'll have 2 types of biryani instead of saying, you don't know how to make biryani. She does, it's just a different type. Maybe she doesn't know how to make biryani. Maybe you can teach her. You understand? It's about tolerance, communication, understanding, and sabr and patience. So let me stop here. If you have any questions. I've never spoken about what I spoke about today in this detail. This is the first time I've spoken about this. I don't know why. It could be vibes from someone here, right? But I think it's very useful, right? I'm glad I've spoke about this. Yeah, if you have any question about any aspect of marriage, it's too broad a question. You understand? Like, how do you manage time? I mean, I can't give you my time schedule. It might be different from what you do. You understand? It's just, I think, in the beginning, you need to spend more time to kind of give reassurance to the other person and get things online. There's a freshness about it. If in the beginning you're like too much into your family or your work, I even tell Muslim scholars that you're a proper research scholar. Doesn't mean justify neglecting your family because I'm reading books all day. It's not right. Or work, or football, or cricket, or Pakistani politics, or whatever it may be. You understand what I'm saying? These are all distractions. Or the mobile, the social media, whether that's for a man or woman. You have to make an investment to iron through all of these issues. Then what happens is that I will understand how much time I need to give and how much time they need to give. And unless somebody is obsessive, somebody is possessive. Some men or women, usually women, get very possessive. Some men do that as well. So they want your full time after you come back from work. They don't even want you to go for namaz. For example, to the masjid for jama'ah. So what happens is usually some women or men are introverts. They don't make too many friends. So they want you to be everything for them. There's a strategy there to get them into a hobby or something. Usually sometimes having a children gives a bit of distraction. So it depends on the situation. But if they're very possessive, we have to find out why they're possessive, because sometimes it's a psychological issue. Maybe their mother was neglected, so they have a trauma or something. We have to decide what that issue is. So that's why it's very holistic in that sense. So how much time? It really depends on the situation. But you can't be giving 100% time because you have to have other things in life, right? But you have to give enough time to get everybody to feel enriched by that. And it doesn't become a burden. So if I'm leaving everything to my wife to do and it's overly burdensome, that's wrong. Can a woman consider more than one marriage proposal at a time? It depends on how far you are. But yes, you can. So technically you could have a meeting with one person, or looking at their profile, or two people at once, and then you could have a meeting with one and you're not 100% sure, you're not inclined, and you could have another meeting and then you can compare and say, okay, I want to move forward with this. You probably don't want to do that once you've kind of inclined in one direction, because you're just going to confuse yourself. So you don't want to create confusion, but at the same time, you also don't want to feel that you should have looked and then feel regretful. So I think if you haven't inclined yet towards one direction, you could consider one and then consider another and then decide. What is the guidance you would give to a woman when a man asks to go 50-50 in finances? This is quite a modern question, and I've been thinking a lot about it recently. Firstly, the default, one of the basic obligations of a marriage for a man is that he takes care of all the finances. What that usually means is he provides her a decent place to stay that is independent of anyone else. That doesn't mean he has to be a full house. If somebody is living with their parents and she doesn't want to live with the parents, then she has a right to a separate quarters. That means a place to sleep, live, bathroom and kitchen, right? Where nobody else is allowed to enter. That's her obligation, that's her right, according to Islam. He has to provide her a decent amount of food and clothing. How do you determine that? An average between her home lifestyle and his home lifestyle. So the complication there would be that if you are a person who usually shops in Asda, George and Primark, and she comes from a family that shop in, where? Harrods and Armani, Giorgio Armani, then, it's like you get a elephant as a pet, you're going to have to feed it, right? You get a 5-litre car and you complain about petrol prices. Right? So it's usually the average in terms of food, clothing and living quarters. The wife doesn't. So if my children have their own money, I can use their money for their expenses. So I can use my child's money for his clothing, food. I can charge him a rent if he's got his own money. People don't do that usually, but you can. But if my wife is a millionaire, I can't charge her anything. If she wants to give me a gift, bismillah. She wants to take me on a holiday. If she wants any luxury items, she can buy them. I'm not responsible for luxury items. The basics I have to provide. Now we got a case where women want to work. So the way I've figured this out so far, if they want to work in the time when the husband is not there and he's okay with her working. Because I believe in this country, after the children are at school, like they're 7, 8 years, they're comfortably at school, because of our way we live here, women can get very, very bored. In other countries, in the villages and so on, there was lots to do. You'd be assisting your brothers, your sisters, your neighbors, you'd be sitting there making samosa, papar, doing lots of gossip and stuff. Not that was a good thing to do, right? But there's lots of ways to. In this country, weather-wise and everything, you're holed up in your little apartments or houses. Women can get very, very bored. So they need to have a hobby They need to volunteer somewhere. They need to be studying something. Or they could do a business or a job, right? Obviously, the husband has to work with her. She has to work with the husband in that regard. So if she is working, in a sense, she's not encroaching on any of the husband's time. When he's back home, she's there, she's doing all of the house. Then he can't demand any finances from her. Okay? However, if she's not fulfilling the obligations in the house, the normal stuff that a woman is usually doing in her culture, then he could possibly get her to pay towards it as well. You understand? Because that means now her earning and so on is coming in the way so she can contribute. Because the reason why he has to pay everything for her in the beginning is she's there for him all the time. Okay? Yeah, now you can ask your question. Okay. Yeah. So there's a few things with that regard. Yeah, there's a few things. Number one, things are getting expensive. I don't know where it's going to go. So what we need to do is, a lot of it is based on your lifestyle choices. While everything's getting expensive, you're not making enough money, but you still want the latest TV screen. You want a brand new car. You want this type of sofa. You're going to have to come down on that. So as far as possible, in terms of what I'm responsible for towards my wife, I can try to manage that, because the Prophet ﷺ said that moderation in your spending is half of your livelihood. If we can control our spending, we can get by. However, sometimes it's not. Then in that case, the husband can't provide, but the wife still wants to be with him, and they want to make ends meet, she can definitely contribute. Ultimately, when people are struggling, they're going to have to make it work. Because technically the woman could say, you know what, he's not able to provide my expenses, I've got grounds for divorce. She could do that, but not everybody does that. And why should they do that? They want to live together, they want to make it work, and he knows that he's genuinely trying. But lifestyle choice would be a big thing, but things are still getting difficult. Allah make it easy. But yeah, if you have a specific scenario, I can try to, inshallah, but hopefully I've given some guidelines in that regard. As a woman who wears a hijab, I would like to live separately from my in-laws. How do we approach this issue? Well, I told you what the Sharia says. Sharia says you're due. It's just that not everybody gets it. There's so much emotion involved. There's so much culture involved. And then the son is torn in between. His father saying, you leaving us and so on. They don't realize that it's his son's obligation to give his wife a separate quota. And the statistic shows that in most cases where children do live separately, there's a lot more love that's maintained. People have this kind of fanciful kind of idea that my son and his wife has to stay with me, but they're not willing to be adjustable and malleable enough to accommodate their daughter-in-law. And then you can't have it both ways, where you want it your way, and you don't want to be tolerant with your daughter-in-law and make her like you, and then you still want her to do your khidmat. It's just this weird situation. Sharia is very clear on it. We would love it if at least one of the children stay with their parents and their wife does. That is very ideal. It's a beautiful situation. Problem is that a lot of the parents don't make themselves the right accommodators of that. Sometimes it is the girl's fault. Sometimes the daughter-in-law is the one causing the mischief and the parents are really cool. She just wants her way and stuff like that. But again, as I said, I've told you what the rights are, and then after that, it's just about trying to work out the best scenario. The husband has a very difficult situation. He has to really play the game very, very well. Do you have to provide for your wife if she works? Again, I told you already what that meant, that if she works and she's not encroaching on any of your rights, she's filling all of it, yes, you still have to pay for her. Is it okay to prefer to marry a woman who works if one knows and understands his position as the provider so she can support with finance? Yeah, I mean, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. As a man, I just feel that I should provide everything. But my wife teaches, I never tell her to pay towards anything. She wants to get me a gift, bismillah. But I'm not going to force her to pay for anything. It's not me, I'm going to get the money and take you on a holiday. I said, okay, that's fine. No. What to do if one has self-esteem issues, but is expected by family to start with marriage talks? Should he address his self-esteem issues before looking for marriage? You can do both together, maybe. You don't have to do one or the other. And how long is it going to take you? What are your self-esteem issues? So you definitely need to get help with both and kind of learn on the job, inshallah. Allah make it easy. In the event of a khula, is the divorce valid if she does not return the mahar? Yeah. So if you do a khula means that she agreed to pay the mahar back or a certain amount of money if you give her a divorce. And you gave the divorce. And then she owes you the money. So you can chase her for it. It's like civil case. She owes me money or he owes me money. So go and take her to court. Or go and chase her for it. That's all you can do. But the divorce is done. There's another way to do this in a way that you will get a divorce as soon as you pay me. If you make it contingent on the payment, then she'll have to pay to get the divorce. Then that's a different issue. But in this case, in a normal khula, the divorce is definitely valid because it's already done, man. He has to. It just now it's it's a balance. They have to pay for it. So you got the right to chase them for it, but if they don't, the divorce is done anyway, right? And that's why what we tell people when there's a thingy about this is that give the divorce pending the payment. That's another way of doing it. That's called talaq ala mal, I think. How to deal with a spouse who complains about you constantly, either openly or behind your back? I don't know. I told you I can't deal with it because okay, so look, I'll tell you why. What's he complaining about? I want to know that. Are you completely free of what he's complaining about? Have you never done those things? Is he just going on about something that happened 5 years ago? Or is it something that's still there? Can you see how it could change the answer? So, if it is, there are some husbands and wives who go on about stuff that happened 10 years ago. They're just silly. Come on, wake up. Stop bringing those things up. Have a new life, right? But if he's complaining about something that, whether open you behind your back, that you're still doing, then does he have a right to complain about that or not? Do you understand? So I want to know what he's complaining about and whether you still do that thing or not. Then I can give you a proper answer. I answer too many questions. And when people ask me general questions, I really don't understand. I don't have an answer for you. Why is he complaining? And hand on heart, do you still do that thing or not? And you just stop. You just don't want him to complain about it. Or have you stopped doing it and still complaining about it? You understand? But how to deal with a person who's a nag? Right? If somebody just nags and nags and nags, what you have to do is you talk to them in a time when there's no conflict. Sit down with a chai or coffee or whatever you like. Is it Kashmiri coffee here or what is it? A Kashmiri tea? Pink tea. Is the pink one, right? Or hot chocolate, whatever you like. Put a candle as well, nice candle, lowered lights, and you talk to them and say, look, can you please just stop doing this? Because it's not going anywhere. Because if you talk differently and nicely away from the normal antagonistic way, sometimes it gets through. If you can't do that, write a letter to them or an email or a message. Say, look, it would make a lot more sense if we can just stop doing this or whatever. And if that doesn't work, then try to get somebody else to talk to them. Okay, Jazakallah khair. I think we'll have to do a longer session some other time, inshallah. But what I want to say is that I have about probably 15, 20 lectures on marriage, different aspects on marriage, and about bringing up children and all of that stuff on our channel, Zamzam Academy. So feel free to go there and just listen more relaxed. I've got a book on marriage as well. Although some of the stuff that I covered here was not in the book, some of it is in the book. And keep us in your du'as, inshallah. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام وتبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث. Ya Allah, have mercy on us. Ya Allah, bless us all. Ya Allah, bless all of those here who have marriages. enhance their marriages, remove any conflicts and problems. Oh Allah, grant us the love that you gave to Aisha radiyallahu anha, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And oh Allah, those who are not married, oh Allah, grant them righteous and pious spouses. And oh Allah, grant us all such spouses and descendants that will be the gladness of our sight. Oh Allah, bless all of those who've put this program together. Bless all of those who've attended. And oh Allah, allow us to be productive individuals in this world and relieve our brothers and sisters who are suffering. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
With the Rayyan Courses subscription, you'll gain immediate access to over 250 hours of exclusive video lessons taught by experienced scholars. Sign up now at rayyancourses.com to continue your journey. Your next lesson is waiting.